True story. I was taking the quiver off my son's bow the other day, and it dawned on me that sucker is over 30 years old. It made me laugh enough that I called Drew and I said, hey, what a poor business model, you guys selling products that last over 30 years. He said, why don't you send it to me and I'll refinish it. I was like, man, you know how many bows this thing's been on? Because I don't. Change the hood, change the grippers. I mean, I've wood arrows, aluminum arrows, carbon arrows. That thing's seen it all. And I promise you, I probably would not buy a used bow for me. I'm kind of tough on stuff. So anyways, if you're looking for a quiver, I would tell you, if you want to spend your money once, better look at Selway Archery. You'll have that sucker a long time. Slide-ons, tie-ons, bolt-ons, they got all kinds. Give Drew a holler. Check them out. It'll last a heck of a long time. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Monday and another episode of the Stickbow Chronicles, brought to you by Blackwidow Bows. What's going on, Blake?
Hello.
The only time we get to BS anymore is when we do these intros.
I know. We need to do another BS podcast soon.
Yeah. So this is, let's see. So this will be a week, about 10 days from now when this one drops. Got a whole bunch of things to dribble out here. I didn't even talk to you about it. We got to start talking about. Go ahead.
As I was going to say, as per usual, we
have fractured conversations.
Very.
We got to start hitting the I Hunt Close Trad Kill 2021. It's kind of been all put together here for a couple weeks, and we just haven't announced it.
Yeah, no, we're excited to roll that out again. It was a big hit last year, and I think it pushed some people over the edge to pick up a stick bow, and just showing people that it's a highly successful piece of equipment if you put the time in and put the effort in.
Yeah, and it just about pushed me and you over the edge in December, trying to get it all settled out. I think we finished up about Christmas.
I was ready to sell my half of this thing.
Well, good luck. You might owe whoever you sell it to. You might owe them some money.
I'll give you $300 to
take this. That's funny. We got some pipe hitters back on board. Sitka, Iron Will, Kifaru. I haven't talked to Drew, but I know he's on board, and we got. I got arrows down because I know we got an arrow guy that wants to get in, but we're looking at doing kind of just a broad stroke. Your trad kills from January 1st of 2021 to December 1st of 2021. We'll have a youth division again this year, 17 and under, and then we'll do a first trad kill. So I don't know how we're going to structure it because, we don't want people putting all in for the same thing. But we got so many first trad kills last year that we're going to take one of these big prizes and have a separate category for that because that is super cool.
I didn't want to interrupt your awesome announcement, but did you say pipe hitters?
Is that not the right term?
Maybe pipe hitters mean something different down here. I don't know.
You are in Texas. Everything's different in Texas. Is it a bet?
Everything's bigger in Texas, old son. You got it wrong.
Well, I consider this lineup heavy hitters. How's that? Is that?
There you go.
Is that heavy hitters? Does that work? Maybe
I need. I think of the Dazed and Confused movie. Just throw that out there.
That's funny. That's
funny. A lot like I've got to call you out where I can, because you called me out on the keep it stupid simple.
That was awesome, though. That was awesome. Well, this podcast, you about lost your mind when John said, when he mentions, you guys' age, like we're both the same age, we're both young. You're losing your mind over there. Like, this guy's old.
Hang on a minute.
Either he made me a lot younger or you a lot older. I'm not sure which.
There's no doubt that I am the young gun here.
Oh, it's funny stuff. Yeah, so be looking for that. We're going to have some stuff go up. We'll have the same email address. We'll get it all put together. And looking forward to seeing those photos, because it's turkey season. I know people have already been whacking pigs, and some people are still, we're killing deer after the first of the year. So get them rolling in.
Yeah, I'll get one done and dusted here pretty quick. I think I finally got an arrow setup figured out for my Widow.
What do you got?
So this thing and I don't know how much of this has to do with me, but I'm pretty sure I could shoot anywhere from like a 350 down to a 500 out of it, just depending on point weight and how short I cut it. But so I got a 400 Rampage with 250 up front. It's like 30 inches long to fly extremely well out of it, but it was pretty light for me, and I want to shoot micros. I was just kind of screwing around with some arrows I had laying around to kind of get an idea of where I could be. Well, I also had 350 deep impacts that were longer than the 400s by about an inch, and I put 275 on the front of those, and they're flying really, really well. And they're probably going to weigh about 610 grams, which is honestly a little bit heavy for me.
Are you shooting 60 pounds?
Yeah, 50. Yeah. Well, 60. It's 60 at 28, and I'm about 27 and a half. So, I'm 58, 59, right in there somewhere. So, I'd really like to be down closer to 550, but I'm going to, with that 610 grain arrow, that bow is silly quiet. So, I'm going to give it a roll. My point on looks like it's going to be about 34, 35, which is a little bit lower than I'm used to, but I'm going to give it a roll and see how it goes.
So when you're hammering out your arrow setup, you bare shaft and paper?
Bare shaft through paper, and that kind of gets me a good starting point. And once that's going to get you 90% of the way there. And then generally from there, I'm going to do some slow-mo video, as well as shooting bare shafts, fletch shafts, and broadheads back at 35 and 40 yards. And the main thing I'm looking for there is lefts and rights.
Man, I would think if you get it through paper, that's not a done deal. Like you punch a hole in paper, it's not a done deal.
It is, but you can really.
That's a mic drop for me.
I know. I don't know that. I think it kind of depends on your form and a lot of different things. But so if I get a 1 inch weak tear through paper, I'm going to cut like 1/8 of an inch off of that arrow at a time until I can walk it into just like right on the weak side of a bullet hole, if that makes sense. So I want to get a bullet hole, but so say there's a 1/2 inch margin of tune in an arrow shaft. So say you can get a bullet hole through paper at 6 feet within a 1/2 inch of arrow length. Is this making sense?
Yep.
I want to be on the weaker side of that 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to go outside, slow-mo video, and shoot at distance to really fine tune that in. And I can generally do that with brace height. I'm going to fine tune in my brace height to exactly, and I want to get that thing right down the center. And I'll even, in those slow-mo videos, I'll watch my paradox. If it's having to paradox a ton around the riser, but it's and taking a while to correct itself, I'll work my brace height and try and get it to where it's a lot closer to perfect, if that makes sense.
I'm going to go with I'm going to use the term appropriately according to Texas. That sounds like a pipe hitter.
It's It's a little much. It's a little much,
dude.
I mean, it
No,
it
more power
really,
to you. More power to
it
you.
gives, well, number one, it gives me a lot of confidence, but number two, it seems like it makes a big difference, because if I'm right smack dab, if I have a perfect tune, I can screw up quite a bit and not throw it off too far, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, good stuff.
But anyways, I didn't expect to go down that rabbit hole, but that's kind of my tuning process in a nutshell anyway.
We might have to do a whole episode on tuning. I'm pretty red now.
We really probably need to.
I have confidence in what I do. But you're at another level, as is Aaron.
And Aaron's probably even well, I think we probably do things pretty similarly, but he can explain it a lot better than I can. Yeah. More than likely, he's pretty good at explaining stuff like that.
Well, unless you got anything else, let's wrap this.
Yeah. No, let's get out of here. Got John Gardner, Hope and Young board member. He's killed the Colorado Big Nine. He's almost on his third time around. He's done a lot with a stick bow, exceptional taxidermist. We go down quite a few rabbit holes here, but I think everybody will enjoy it.
Yep. No, it was a great discussion, and we need to have him back on, because as much stuff as he's killed, we only brushed on that briefly.
Yep, for sure.
Hey, big thanks to the listeners. We talk about the sponsors. Thank you guys. Thank you guys and gals. We appreciate all the feedback, all the messages we get. Yeah, awesome. You like it? Hit that subscribe button, follow button, whatever platform you listen to, and tell a friend. And lastly, I want to thank the sponsors: Selway Archery, the Footed Shaft, Kifaru International, Backwards Grind Coffee Company, and of course, Blackwidow Bows. Got anything, buddy?
Let's get out of here.
Roger out.
Helping crate up the museum, getting ready to ship everything down to the Wonders of Wildlife at Bass Pro in Springfield, Missouri.
I saw Rick just posted something and about all those bows laying on the floor.
Oh, I haven't seen it. What did he say?
Oh, just like something like it, man. If all these bows could talk.
So I opened up my mouth and told him that after the convention that I would take on the responsibility of trying to sell all those bows that we had in that pile.
Did you say sell?
And other piles that you didn't see.
Did you say sell?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
We had hundreds and hundreds of bows that were duplicates per se, that were really not needed in the collection, that we decided to, we're basically going to yard sale them and take that money and use it towards the museum for other things. Obviously, all the hand-picked premium bows will stay in the collection and be on display. But many of those bows were basically duplicates, to speak of.
So, John, forgive me. Rick was pounding the doors down to get you on now, and I probably don't remember the exactly what he said. But are you working on your second Big 8 or Big 10?
My third.
Third. That's all with a stick
actually,
bow?
I'm actually taking it one step further, working on my third Big 9.
You're gonna have to explain some of that to me.
I have 2 Big 9s right now, and I'm just a couple animals away from trying to complete my third. That's my bucket list, is I want to get 3 Big 9 done before I hang my bow up on the shelf.
Is that all with a stick bow?
It is not all with a stick bow. But I would say all but about 4 animals.
Wow.
Earlier when I was using a compound years ago, and then at some point I'll put the compound down and never picked it back up again.
And you're in Colorado, and you part of the Colorado Bowhunters Association?
I am. I'm a life member. I have been for maybe 40 years.
Wow. They sound
that's telling my age, isn't it?
Well, you must have joined young.
I did. I tell people I remember joining and I hate to say this, but I don't remember if it was $50 or $100 for a life membership. And I had to borrow the money to do it. So
That's funny. Were you paying it?
But I felt really strongly about it at that time. I said, I need to get involved with this group, and didn't know much about it. It's hard to explain from someone that doesn't live in Colorado, but I live down in the Southwest, and we're the ugly little stepchild that's way out there in the middle of nowhere. And the core and the heart of the CBA is basically in the Denver, Colorado Springs area. So there's a handful of us that live on the, my relatives always go, "Oh, I see Denver did this. I see Denver did." Yeah. Well, Denver's 7 hours away from me. So it's like we don't really know what's going on in Denver, nor does Denver know what's going on down here.
Well,
does that make sense?
So you're down around Durango then, huh?
No, I'm in Durango.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful,
right
beautiful area.
I feel very blessed to been able to stay here after college and make a living and call it my home. Very blessed.
So, explain the Colorado Big Nine for those who don't know exactly what it is you're talking about there.
Well, the Colorado Big Eight is all the 8 species in Colorado. And then we came along, and then we ended up, our moose population rose up to the ranks when they said, okay, we're going to start hunting moose. And I was lucky enough, I believe I got a tag the second year that it was available, and drew a moose tag that year. And I shot a moose, and then I called the records chairman of the CBA at the time was Barry Smith. I said, Barry, I was just jokingly said, we need to make a 9 species award. And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, I got a moose. And he's like, and I was just joking. He goes, I guess we do. And that's how that kind of got started.
So I'm just rattling. I'm just thinking of the species. So you got whitetail moose or whitetail mule deer.
Let's just do the deer. You got whitetail, mule deer,
yeah,
elk, antelope, bear, lion, goat, sheep. What did I miss?
That's where I was.
I ran out of fingers.
Moose, I believe, is what you missed.
No, moose is 9. And we actually have 1 or 2 members in the CBA that have 10 that shot the desert bighorn sheep.
Wow.
Okay. That's awesome.
So
you're on your 3rd go around?
I'm on my 3rd go around for 9 species. That's my goal, my dream.
How far?
A bucket list, you might say.
What are you lacking?
I'm lacking another moose, and I feel very confident that I'll get a moose tag here shortly. There's a couple of moose units that are that I can get a cow tag in, I think. And another one that I'm missing, you're gonna think it's funny, but I don't have 3 whitetails in Colorado. Because I always end up going to hunt in other states, Kansas or Texas or Oklahoma. And so I need to concentrate and go shoot another whitetail in Colorado. And I applied for that this year also, so maybe I can get a tag.
You got to apply for the whitetail?
Yes, we have to apply for all deer in Colorado.
Yeah, and the whitetail is everybody, when they think Eastern Colorado, thinks of mule deer, and I've seen some mega giant whitetails come out of Colorado. Also, I don't think
we have some giant
publicized a whole lot
in Eastern Colorado. We really do.
Colorado has everything.
And we have some big mule deer in Eastern Colorado. And it's funny when, back in the day when we were knocking on doors trying to find a place to hunt in Eastern Colorado, almost every rancher was so, sure, you can go hunt whitetails. Don't touch my mule deer. So we always thought that was pretty funny.
It seems to, maybe not to the extent that it used to be, but, and I'm kind of talking out my butt here, but it seems to be that that it's still kind of that way, that they're a little bit more protective of mule deer out there than they are the whitetails. Do you know why that is?
Well, for one, they don't have the numbers of whitetail that we have on the western slope, or mule deer that we have on the western slope. And the mule deer that they have out there, they have some tremendous mule deer. I mean, some huge mule deer. And the landowners, and it's hard to get a tag out there, and the landowners, they protect them, and they want to keep them for themselves and their family, and I don't blame them. It's their property.
I actually got lucky, and I'm going to have an Eastern Colorado tag this year for mule deer. Be out there in the middle of November, so I'm really looking forward to that.
That's a prime time. So you're hunting one of the rifle seasons?
No, it's the archery season.
Oh, okay.
It's the archery because I think they've got the early archery, which is I believe in September, and then they've got the middle, which runs through November, and then they've got a late archery that's in December. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's how they've got it structured. And I'm going to take off 9 days right there in the middle of November, and hopefully hit it right.
That'll be a great hunt. Yeah, so, that time of the year, I'm in the shop. I don't get to really go do much hunting because I'm focused in the shop. And when that gets done, usually it's not until December when I can sneak away and go over to Kansas and go hunting.
So, John, did you grow up in Colorado? Can you tell us?
I did not. I moved here from northern Indiana to go to college at Fort Lewis College here in Durango. And my mom reminds me that the day after I got here, I called her up and said, "Mom, I found home." And I've been here basically ever since.
Did you grow up hunting?
And that was back in 78.
Did you grow up hunting in Indiana?
I did. I grew up, actually, I was born in Texas. We had a small family ranch, and I had 4 uncles, a father and a grandfather that everybody hunted. And that's where I got my start. I did have one uncle that tried his hand at bow hunting back in the day. I'm not going to tell you that he was successful, but I think that he basically handed me my first bow back, when I was very young. And then we moved to Indiana when I was 10. And then when I was about 14, I bought a bow that you could actually hunt with. And that, at that time in Indiana, when you went deer hunting, if you saw a deer, you were the hero at school the next day. If you just saw a deer. Unlike now, my dad has 40 acres back there, and he's got deer running all over him. But that wasn't so when I was a young lad in school.
Do you remember what your first bow was?
My first bow was a Ben Pearson Spoiler Magnum. And I bought it at Montgomery Ward's. Someone had dry fired it, spidered the finish on it, and the manager sold it to me for $20.
Wow.
I wish I still had it just to hang on the wall.
That'll get you an arrow now.
What's that?
So that'll get you an arrow now.
Yeah, the $20.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So my next bow was a Kodiak Magnum, because that's what my buddies all had. So I had to have one of those.
Those are those really short
ones. And then
ones,
at some point I went to a compound for a few years, and then I don't know, somewhere along the line, I went on a hunt down in South Texas, and we were rattling in whitetails. And I was with the ranch manager, and he said, "Go with me. I'm going to show you how to do this." And he rattled in 17 bucks in 2 days. And I did not get a single shot at any of them. And I told him, "I'm coming back next year with a recurve so I can shoot a lot faster." Went home that year, ordered a Wapiti recurve, started shooting it, and have never looked back.
What year would that have been?
Boy, now you're trying to get me to think about this a little bit. That was
early 90s?
Mid 80s.
Mid 90s.
Mid 80s, something like that.
Yeah.
No, it's funny you
You
say
know,
that. So I see. I'm from Texas, and I've that's a hunt that I've always wanted to do is go down to South Texas, where I mean you can tickle horns down there, and they just run in like crazy, and it looks like a ton of fun.
I will tell you that I've been back numerous times trying to duplicate that weekend that we were there, and I've never come close.
Really?
Never have I rattled in deer like we did that one particular weekend. I just feel as though you have to hit it right and you have to have some luck on your side.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, I've rattled in a
that's a
deer here
blast,
and
though.
there, but to say you're going to go down there, I mean, the moon has to be in the right phase, the wind, the rut, everything for it to work. In my opinion, there's some guys that live down there, they probably can do it every day, but I didn't.
No, that's one of those bucket list hunts. Being a Texas boy, that's one of the Texas hunts I'd like to do is go down and hunt the brush country down there, especially during the rut.
So
I have been blessed to be able to hunt a lot of the South Texas brush country, and it's very, very addicting. You know, it really is addicting. And you explain to some northern hunters how much fun it is and how addicting it is, and they look at you like cross-eyed, like, "What are you talking about?" And then when you try to tell them, "Yeah, there's some big bucks down there," like, and they laugh at you because they all have this thought that we're thinking of, you know, hill country deer that aren't as big, you might say.
Yeah, you got to go
there's some
past the hill
tremendous
country.
bucks down there. Yeah, there's some tremendous bucks once you get deep South Texas.
now that like real brushy, I don't know what kind of brush it is, but you know, it's like
Mesquites.
yeah. So it's like 5-6 foot tall brush everywhere, and you just like, am I picturing the right country?
You're picturing the right country, and thick as thick can be. You know,
You're not hanging many tree stands down there, are you?
No, there's not. But that's where they invented tripods. And
Yeah.
I really enjoy sitting in tripods down there in that short brush. It's a lot of fun.
I'm trying to think of the guy that was really famous. Everybody will know his name, but he was like a pistol hunter mostly. Wrote for Outdoor Life, and that was his big thing. He was down there rattling bucks. It ring a bell? Anybody?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and then I can see his picture. He wears the cowboy hat.
Yes. Weesum?
Yeah, I can't.
Weesum? Start with a W?
I know
Yeah,
exactly who
something
you're
like that,
talking
yeah.
about. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah. That's what I think of when I think of South Texas and rattling was that guy. Larry Weesum?
Yeah, Larry, that's right.
Yeah. So what did you do? You know, so you're there back there in Colorado. What did you do to pay for your bow hunting habit?
So I'm a taxidermist. I have a taxidermy business that's been here for over 40 years.
You started
it?
You started it?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started it shortly after college, and kind of a long story. I used to guide some hunters, and one of my hunters was a taxidermist in Texas. And he says, "Why don't you go to work for me and come down and learn how to do more taxidermy?" Because I told him I was always playing with it. And I agreed to do that. I said, "Yeah, I'll come down and work for you a little bit," not knowing that he was not a very good taxidermist. However, I will tell you, he was an awesome businessman.
Yeah.
And he could tell the stories and hear the stories and slap his knee and laugh with the hunters, and people just loved him because he had a personality that was as big as the moon, you might say. And he took in a lot of work. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of whitetail deer. And I thank him for the things that I learned from him on that aspect. But I came back to Colorado. I was only there for a few months and decided I really wanted to dive into the taxidermy, and started going to taxidermy competitions in the Colorado Taxidermy Association and learning more and just progressed through the years. And at the time I had purchased, I'd gone to a guy who had a meat processing plant and said, "Hey, can I put some mounts on your wall see if I can get some taxidermy. And he goes, I got a better idea. Why don't you go to work for me? You can skin the animals that come in, and you can get as much taxidermy as you can gather up. And I wish I'd have kept better records, but the first year I got about 10 mounts. Well, the next year I'm still standing there. The hunters are coming back, and I tripled that. And then the year after that, I tripled it again. And then the fourth year, this gentleman says, well, I got to move back to Iowa. My family's needs me. And he goes, here's basically the processing plant. You own it. And so then I had a processing plant and a taxidermy shop. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years, and then sold the processing part of it off and concentrated more on the taxidermy. And the same token, at the same time, I had an outfitter call and said, because I had learned our goat area and had been hunting in there a lot. And that was back when you could get a goat tag literally every year.
Wow.
They had 16 goat tags, and they'd have 15 people apply because nobody thought you could do it with a bow. So I would get a goat tag almost every year and go up there and try to shoot a goat. Not a very good archer at that time. And an outfitter calls me and says, hey, I got a client that wants to go goat hunting. Do you want to guide him? And I said, no, not really. He says, well, I'll pay you this much money. I said, I'll do it. Well, that started my addiction to my guiding career. And I started every fall guiding goat hunters, as many as I could, 1 or 2 a year. And the next thing you know, I'm guiding goat hunters and a sheep hunter. And the next thing you know, I'm basically guiding all sheep hunters and no goat hunters. And, I've been on well over 50 sheep hunts and about the same amount of goat hunts.
Damn. So I got to ask you to back up just for 1 minute here. What was your major in college?
My major was business.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I was
my
going to get a
dad
big
liked
laugh.
to say my major was girls, but it was business. So.
I was going to say, I was looking for a big laugh, like mechanical engineering.
Yeah, no. The day I packed up to my car to go to Colorado, I put my skis in the trunk. I put my bow in the trunk. I put my shotgun and my rifle in the trunk. And my dad comes out and he goes, are you going to go to school or are you just going to play? And it's like, well, I was fortunate enough to live in Durango where that's a lot of it is going to college and playing. The old saying, you can go to Fort Lewis College and ski 300 days a year and get a degree in the part-time.
Man,
no, that's one of my favorite areas up there. It's a beautiful area. I've driven through there a couple times, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Well, like I said, I've been very blessed to be able to stay here and make a living and have fun, great friends, and live in a great area. And we try to spend as much time in the backcountry as I can because it's so addicting.
Do you do it all on foot or horses been in your lives, llamas, goats, anything?
So used llamas a couple times, used a lot of horses, prefer doing things on foot, but some of the sheep and goat areas that we go into, you have to have animals to help you get your gear in. So depending on what sheep or goat unit you're going to and how deep you have to go, dictates on, animals that you have to use. But, we generally try to round up a few mules and at least take camp in. Sometimes I hire other people to haul us in, haul us out, but then I've, taken animals in. But it seems like, when you take animals in, somebody's got to babysit them. And I'd rather be up chasing sheep and goats and sitting in camp babysitting a horse or a mule.
I want to back up for a second. What's the name of your taxidermy shop?
Wildlife Expressions.
You know what's funny? The cape on my mule deer that's hanging right behind me, you can't see it because you're not on Zoom, I got from you this year.
That's funny.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Small world.
I did. You shipped it to Texas.
Was it was it a half size that we sent down?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I shot a mule deer shot a mule deer in Colorado this year, and my freezer ended up going out when I got back, and it shot it with a muzzle loader, and freezer went out, and I was pretty concerned about the cape. I thought, oh hell, I'll call around, see if I can find another one just to be on the safe side, and got a hold of you. That's where I got it from. So that's too funny.
Okay.
I just connected all those dots.
Yeah, and I just remember we only sent one cape to Texas recently, and that was that half size, and I remember that it was a short-haired half size. You know?
Yeah, no, and it turned out
funny.
fantastic.
That's very
turned
funny.
out fantastic. I'll have to send you pictures of it.
Yeah, dude, definitely send a picture. It'd be nice to see. That's all.
Cool.
That is funny. So,
So you doing any guiding now, or just taxidermy?
no, I guide almost every year, one or two sheep hunts or a goat hunt.
Wow.
You know, I was on sheep hunts last year and goat hunts last year. Now I did take a bunch of time off last year for me, and I drew a 61 elk tag. I did not shoot a bull by choice, but I had a great time. Spent a lot of time over there and saw a lot of elk. I just didn't see the one I really wanted to shoot.
I think that's the tag that Randy had.
Oh, I think you're right.
Randy.
That's a tag.
Randy Cooling.
Oh yeah, was he over there last year?
Yes.
Or was it
so.
earlier? Yeah. I saw some great bulls. It just, you got to put it all together, and it just didn't happen for me.
Yeah,
I had a water hole that was very near my camp, and a lot of evenings when I had nothing going on, I'd go sit this water hole, and I think every single night I sit there, I had elk come in. I mean, just elk. I'm not talking big bulls. I'm just talking elk, you know.
Yeah.
Small bulls, cows and calves. But it was a lot of fun. I took pictures and videoed a lot of elk that came in. Had like I said, had a great time. No regrets. Except for now that would be my last big bull hunt in Colorado, because that one took me 16 points to get.
Wow. Is that 16? Is that six? That's not 16 years, is it? 1 point a year?
16 years.
Holy smokes.
Yes.
Wow.
I'll be ready to burn quite a few next year, I hope.
Where are you planning on going?
Can you
write this timestamp down?
Careful,
Rob. Write this timestamp.
Yeah, gotcha. Gotcha.
I'm going to go to I think.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
Think it takes
and
7.
You guys did get your tags in today, right? I mean, you've got it all taken care of.
Oh yeah, I got all. I just applied for points for everything this year, and then I threw my name in the hat for sheep, but everything else just points. So
okay.
We're getting landowner tags for that Eastern Colorado hunt. And I tracked down some landowner tags that weren't too expensive, and got some access to a pretty good amount of property out there. So looking really, really forward to that. I'm going to miss the high country though. There's something about that high country that it'll suck it out of you, but I'll definitely miss it. I'll be ready to get back into the mountains.
Well, there's no law that says you just can't come out here and go hiking around and camping in the high country. Scout the area that you hope to go to in the future.
I would love to. I wish I had more time off, and I would probably get in trouble from spending too much time in Colorado.
I can relate. I get yelled at now and then for being in the woods too much and not working so much.
So what are you shooting as far as gear these days?
So my bow, my main bow is a sleigh bow. Are you familiar with Pat Lay's bows? They're called sleighs.
Oh, never heard of it.
So Pat was a bowyer down in Kingsville, Texas. And many years ago, we had purchased a new mule, and it was opening weekend of elk season. And it was hot and dry, and we had this new mule, and we decided that we weren't going to go hunting. We were just going to take the mule for a ride, and we were going to ride up to an outfitter that I work with a lot, go up to his camp. We knew no one would be in camp. We thought, well, just ride up there and put some pine cones in their sleeping bags and call it a day. We ride into camp, and we ride into camp. This guy comes out of the tent, and I'm like, why aren't you out hunting? What are you doing in this tall tall Texan walks out, and he immediately sees that we've got a recurve, hanging over the saddle horn basically. And he sees, and then he's like, it doesn't take very many minutes, and we're all out shooting bows, and he's a bowyer and he's got his bows, and he hands me his personal bow and I shoot it, and and there was a milk carton on the side of the hill, and I went blip, blip, blip. And I looked at him and I go, I want to buy this bow. And he goes, that's my personal bow. It's not for sale. And I basically said, you're a bowyer, make a new one. And we struck up a conversation and a deal. And he said, look, if I don't connect on this hunt, if you guys could take me out for a couple of days, maybe I'd give you this bow. So a week later, he shows up at my shop and he didn't get an elk. And I said, come on, let's go out for a couple of days and see what we can do. And I took him in the woods, and my dad had already shot an elk with his muzzleloader, but I took him down in the woods and basically trashed the poor guy. I mean, literally trashed him, and got back to the truck. And my dad says, you should have known better than going out with those guys. But true to his word, he gave me this bow, which 20 some odd years later and 30 plus animals later, I'm still shooting it.
Really?
So I will tell you that I do have a stalker. South Cox made me a stalker, and I took it to Kansas this year and shot a nice whitetail with that.
Which model?
So the first one that he made for me was the Coyote, and I felt as though the grip was a little smaller than I like. So then I had him make me a Wolverine, and his number one model, you might say, and less pounds. As you get older, your poundage goes down.
No, your poundage goes up,
it,
but the strength of you pulling the bows goes down.
Something like that. I hate to admit it, but I just like, wow. So my first Wapiti was like 65 pounds, and they tried to talk me out of it. Like, no, I can handle that. And now I look back going, what an idiot I was. But anyway, I took that to Kansas, and I shot a really nice whitetail with that. I was really tickled with it.
So what kind of poundage do you shoot now?
So my sleigh bow is more or less a 55-pound bow. And this new stalker is a 48-pound bow. And I think it works great for what I was doing tree stand hunting in Kansas.
Oh, I'll bet that 48 pounds feels good when it's 10 degrees and you've been in that stand for 5 hours.
Well, first off, I'm not there when it's 10 degrees.
You're smart.
I go, no, I think I'll stay in today. About, I don't know, let's just go back 5 or 6 years ago. We went to Wisconsin in December thinking, we had a place to hunt. It was in Buffalo County. This is awesome. We have this awesome ranch. They got all these pictures of all these deer. Yeah, that was my first and last time I'm doing that. It was so cold.
Those folks up there are hardcore.
Yeah. After about 5 days, we went, I think I've had enough of this. So I don't know that I could have pulled my bow back in that cold temperature. I don't know.
They have them sleeping bag things that people are always messaging me. You got to get one of these. I'm thinking, man, that'd be a shit show for me.
Heater bodysuit.
Actually, the bodysuit, I really like mine.
Is that like a blanket sleeping bag thing?
Yeah, and it I'm telling you, it works. Huh. They work.
Well, I don't doubt it's warm, but to try to get out of that thing.
Well, you have to kind of be on your toes, and you have to practice. I mean, to get in and out of it, but it's very doable. And as soon as you see, a deer, even at a distance, you need to get it off your shoulders and be ready. But it does work, and it does keep you warm, and you can stay out there longer.
That's actually something. That's something.
I was gonna say, I've never used one and shot a deer, but I've used them a lot.
I was just going to say that's interesting because I have issues shooting with bulky clothing on because the string angle. I don't know if it's. I don't know what the reasoning is behind it. I may be kind of
boobs. It's your man
thick
boobs.
chest, thick chested a little bit. But my string, if I'm wearing a bulky jacket, will hang on the jacket right above my chest. And it's something that I've kind of fought with, and I have to really, really, really pay attention to not do it in a tree, especially shooting down. Shooting at a steep angle, it gets even worse. And that may be something I have to try, is where, some lighter weight clothes and just have one of those heater body suits or something, because it's been a struggle for me.
Have you ever seen video or pictures of anybody using them?
I have. It's been a while though.
They
That's
hang on
like
suspenders on your, they hang like on suspenders on your shoulders. And so when you drop your shoulders, the top part just falls down basically to your waist, and you could have a sweatshirt on underneath it.
They're pretty quiet.
That way you wouldn't have this bulky, very quiet. Yep, very quiet.
That may be something I have to look into.
I mean, even when I go to Kansas, I usually throw it in the truck, and if it gets that cold, I've got it there to use it if I need it. This year in Kansas, basically hunted in a sweatshirt, but
I can generally get down into the 30s with some pretty thin layers on, and it's not an issue. But it's when it gets down into those teens or 20s or like freezing rain, and I have to, put like that like that Sitka Fanatic jacket. As warm as that thing is, it's just a fraction too bulky. For me, anyways. I know a lot of people don't have any issues at all, but.
Didn't we talk about this before? You were supposed to put a sports bra on the outside of your jacket.
There you go. That works.
It's not like
that would fix it.
Yeah, and then you can always take it off for the hero shots. I mean, it's not like you gotta.
No, bro. I'll just leave that thing on.
Have you guys? No, I got a question for you guys. Have you got to have the opportunity to go cows deer hunting down in New Mexico or Arizona?
I have. I was down there I just bought an OTC deer tag and bear tag. It's been 3 or 4 years ago, and we just picked a spot on a map and went. And we actually ended up getting into quite a few bears. I shot a bear the first evening that we were there, and we were really mainly looking for mule deer. And little did we know, we kind of hit a little coos deer honey hole in there, and we chased them around for probably 5 or 6 days in there. And I got close one day, and it was super windy, and I ended up getting busted. But man, I guess I'm a little bit spoiled because I have a really good place to hunt whitetails, and they just look like tiny whitetails to me. So I've never really had an interest to hunt them until I got out there and hunted them a little bit. And man, they're tough. They're tough little critters to get close to, and they're cool, really cool little critters.
Yeah, I got addicted to them 20 years ago or so. As we started hunting them in New Mexico, and it escalated to going to Mexico. It escalated to going back to Arizona numerous times, and now I've got my wife addicted, and that's a hunt that we really look forward to. And what we like about Arizona is you can hunt in January. If you don't get one in January, you can go back in August. And then if you don't get one in August, you can go back again in December. So it's pretty much and for us, it's not that far of a drive. So it's pretty easy. So, but we're addicted to it. It's
Have
a lot of fun.
You gotten one with a stick bow, I'm assuming?
I did. Yeah. I shot a really nice one many years ago. And I rattled it in, believe it or not.
Really?
And I was
Too cool.
I was fortunate enough to be graced with that picture on the cover of the Pope and Young newsletter back, I'm going to say 15 years ago. But since then, I've had a couple shots here and there that I've missed. I missed a really nice one last year, but I get a kick out of just taking my wife and seeing her frustration, you might say. So,
I can tell you, they're keyed up little suckers. It's the area that I was in, it was very mountainy and kind of like that pinyon juniper type stuff, real deep canyons, and it was really cool because I felt like I was on a little whitetail, but it was country that I would never associate with a whitetail deer. So it was very new, but it was a lot of fun. We got super close several times, and that really wasn't even what we intended to go out there to hunt. That's just kind of what landed in our laps. And if I had to do it over again, we went in August, and it was brutally hot. And if I had to do it over again, we'd go back in December or January. But I'll definitely. That's one of those animals that I'd love to get one with a stick bow, because that'd be a tough one to get for sure.
Yep, they are. They're so addicting, and I really like that January hunt because you never know if you're going to happen to hit the rut right, and if you do, they're running all over the place. Many years ago, I just by accident I happened to meet Bob Renner in the field, literally on the trail, and knew who he was, but I didn't realize it was him at the time. And then he proceeds to tell me that he'd shot 4 of them with his bow.
Wow.
And I'm going, wow, this is incredible. And a couple of days later, we ended up taking him out and got him on a nice one and watched him put an arrow right over the top of it. So it'll make a grown man cry.
Well, and a nice coos deer is what, 80, 85 inches? What's Pope and Young on a coos deer? Probably 70,
well, they're pretty
80?
small. It's 65, isn't it? And I should know that being a measure, but I don't remember the numbers. But a good one. I mean, you shoot one in the 90s. That's a good one in my book.
For sure.
I've shot 2 that are in the 90s, and they're both. I think they're not world class, but they're nice, respectable deer.
What would you equate that to? A 90-inch coos deer is probably like what, a 180 mule deer?
Well, I was going to go on the whitetail side, and I was going to tell you that it's more like a 150 whitetail in my books.
Okay.
That puts some perspective.
Really solid.
It's not a 160. It's not a 170. It's just a decent buck. Just a good one. You guys need to you need to try it. It's very addicting. It's a lot of fun.
We've had close range hunter. He's bugged us to come down there. Chris Dunn.
They're kind of battling some archery tag stuff down there, though. That might be off the books now. I haven't kept up on it, but it sounds like they're really trying to pull a bunch of tags out of the archery seasons.
That's one of those things that we're gonna look back in 20 years and wish we would have hunted Arizona over the counter when we could, because it'll probably take 10 years to draw some of the tags that were over the counter at some point. It's just crazy that it's at one point you could get Arizona strip tags over the counter.
Yep. Well, that's when we started hunting Eastern Colorado way back in the day. They were all just over the counter leftover tags. So we would just go out there and go buy a tag and go hunting. And now you have to apply for everything in Eastern Colorado, or all deer in Colorado.
That's something I was going to bring up.
We used to do antelope tags. You used to go buy antelope tags over the counter for archery in the good units. And now, there are some over the counter antelope tags in the Eastern Plains, but the good units, you got to have a dozen preference points just to draw them.
That was something I was going to bring up on one of these intros we got to record tonight. It's like there's been so many, I don't want to say assaults on our hunting season. Well, yeah, there's been so much gone on this year. It's been crazy. At first I tried to keep up with it, but I'm just unable to. You want to use your platform to get these messages out, but man, we all have, lives and jobs and stuff, and it was just an onslaught this year. And I feel really bad about that Arizona one. That one sounds really serious.
It's hard to stay informed on all of it. There's been so much going on. It's hard to stay educated and up on everything. It's, but
we started out with the Montana thing. We helped out the guys over there quite a bit. I thought, their crossbow thing, and, had them on and we were beating the drum and things went well. But geez, after that, it was just like every week people were sending me, serious stuff. But it's just like, you just can't do it all. And I felt bad. Like I said, I really feel bad about the Arizona thing.
Well, and it's not going to get any easier with this, because they're just going to keep pushing their agenda in any and every way they can. I was talking with Danny Ferris this last couple of weeks, and he's been going to the Colorado Commission meetings. They've been having this deal. They're trying to outlaw bow-held decoys, like, the Ultimate Predator, the one that he sells.
Wow.
And then in the process of that, we almost lost tree stands. One of the commissioners stood up and goes, well, I think tree stands should be illegal. That's an unfair advantage. Let's outlaw those. And then some of the other commissioners started backpedaling and going, whoa. We didn't want to go that far, but Danny called me afterwards going, dude, it was so close. He goes, I could just see it now. I would have been responsible for losing tree stand hunting in Colorado.
He would have had to move out of country.
Well, that's one of those things. I feel like, don't we have bigger fish to fry, guys? I mean, we're going to use those Ultimate Predator decoys or heads up decoys, whatever you want to call them. We're going to use those in eastern Colorado this year. Tony, who I'm going with, he hunts Kansas every year and uses those decoys with really good success in Kansas. And we're going to use them this year a lot. It sounds like, from what Tony's saying. So it seems like to me that there's a lot bigger fish to fry than a damn decoy, but curious what y'all's opinion is.
Well, but you get a commissioner on the Game and Fish Commission that's basically a non-hunter that gets a wild hare and goes, oh, I think those are unsafe, and we need to outlaw those. And they can push the agenda and push it right through, even when they don't know anything about it.
Yeah, that's what that's what I was going to say. Is uneducated commissioners, and it might be called different in other states, like boards or whatever. But you get these uneducated folks, and especially bow your neck. Nobody's going to tell me what's what. You might not know your ass from your elbow, but by God, you're going to outlaw something. So I don't know that that's the case in this case, but that's the fear. And that's why, I feel like you got to have a really good rapport with your game commission.
Was that their argument on the decoys? Was that their argument? Was that they were unsafe?
Their first argument, they were unsafe. And then the way I understand it is Danny came in and brought statistics going, look, there's no accidents whatsoever. There's not a recorded accident. Oh, well, we think it's unethical. Well, when they brought up the ethic things, this other commissioner goes, well, I think tree stands are unethical. I want to make a motion to outlaw tree stands. And then some of the other commissioners who are actually bow hunters went, whoa, back up. You're going too far. And so, and by no means are any of that, are we out of the woods with that. But I think that they put it on the sidelines for a little while, hopefully.
There'd be a lot of saddle wearing hippies and hippies in Colorado after that.
Well, I wonder if that commissioner wasn't trying to make a statement by doing that, like putting up a bluff, like, hey, we're going to call something this. I just wonder, because it does seem so ludicrous, but
you have a lady that doesn't hunt and doesn't know anything about it, but she thinks that if you're up in a tree, it's an unfair advantage.
Okay, so she was.
So that was her perception.
Yeah,
it was unethical to use a tree stand. So, but I'm hoping that they put that to rest and they're not going to push that agenda forward.
Wow. Yeah, you would hope, but it doesn't seem like common sense prevails much anymore.
Sure don't seem like it.
Well, no one said you had to have common sense to be a commissioner. We have to remember that we have a governor whose boyfriend is the one basically bringing the wolves in. There's no common sense. Oh, I want wolves in Colorado, so let's have them.
That boyfriend wasn't lost on me.
It wasn't?
No, I caught that. There was no awkward silence. I knew exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
To back up a little bit,
you can't say it like you want to say it, but that's basically
you can. That's my podcast. Let her rip, Tater Chip.
Here's my gift to you, my boyfriend. I'm going to give you wolves in Colorado. That's what you want.
Oh, gosh.
But forget what the ranchers in Western Slope want. It's what the people who live in apartments in downtown Denver want.
So backing up a little bit, you mentioned ethical, and that is a slippery slope. If somebody's going to say, well, this isn't unethical, because we see it in the hunting community, and maybe this is how this thing with the decoy starts. When, we got to have ethics. Ethics are important. Absolutely. To continue hunting, we need to be ethical in the field, but it's a slippery slope when my ethics aren't the same as, say, Blake's ethics, so I'm going to rail against him and try to start a movement to abolish what he does. It's just a slippery slope.
Well, ethics are something that every hunter has to have in their mind, what they're going to do when no one else is looking. And that's where ethics comes in, is when nobody else is looking, how are you going to act? How are you going to behave? And hunters have to watch our backs, because we have a target on our backs already, and we don't need to give them ammunition to come after us.
I agree.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And that's what I'm saying is we need ethics, but when, just say a method of take, which, use an example. I use the example all the time, bear baiting. Somebody might not think they might not want to partake in it. And they might even think it's too easy or whatever they think of it. But they start to raise a campaign like, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be doing this, when in reality, it's a very important management tool. But, you have somebody, some hunter who might have influence, beating the drum. And to me, that's where it becomes a slippery slope. You can have your ethics, and you can say that, man, I don't think that's right. I don't want to partake in it. But taking it to the next level, that's where I see that's when I see it as a problem.
And just like you brought up, it's a management tool. We've been without bear baiting here for whatever it's been, 25 years or whatever, maybe even a little longer. I'm dating myself. But now our bear populations are so stinking high that it's affecting our elk populations. The division finally came out and said, well, because our elk herd has just gone into the pot. And they finally came out and go, well, it's really too many bears. They're eating our spring calves.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't had bear baiting in many, many years, and it's never going to come back. I always laugh when people come into my shop and go, well, we need to bring bear baiting back. It's not going to happen. It was voted on by the people. It's not going to happen. Don't even go there.
Well, and I think that just speaks to exactly what Rob said, and we've talked about it a bunch, is the slippery slope thing. Once something's gone, it's more than likely not ever coming back. So you have to be really careful what you start pointing fingers at, because once it's gone, it's not coming back. And, another example of that or putting your morals on somebody else. You live in Durango, Colorado. You've hunted South Texas quite a bit. Would you say that baiting deer in Durango would be the same as baiting deer in South Texas?
No, it's different, and yet, there's a lot of people that are against baiting deer, but yet we've got alfalfa fields here, we've got corn fields here, we've got food plots here. So, that's another argument, but you're dealing with public land, you're dealing with private land. There's a lot of variables involved.
I guess exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at, is I kind of use South Texas as an example because of the type of country that it is. And I've not hunted down there much at all, but with the type country that it is in a lot of places, there's only so many ways that you can hunt, period, effectively anyways. And it's I think dumping out a round bale of alfalfa hay in Durango you would get a totally different reaction out of the deer and out of people's thoughts on it than you would dumping a bag of corn on the ground in South Texas, I guess is kind of my point. So you have to be very, very cognizant of pushing your morals on somebody else. And that's just I use that as an example because you've hunted South Texas and you're from Durango. So you kind of see both ends of the spectrum a little bit.
Exactly. And just, you have to look at all the variables, you know,
Well,
and just another thing is just be up with, it's so funny when you get somebody that goes from one state to the next and they don't know the state laws. You got to know the laws of the state that you're hunting in.
so there is a point, and I'm trying to articulate it, but like there is a point where we need to call people out, right? We need to police our own. You need to have ethics, and you need to, we need to certainly have put on a good face for the public to accept hunting. I mean, we can't go out there and, have people. You see this crap on social media where people like putting dead turkeys in their mouths and, doing stupid stuff. And like, you need to call people out. We need to have a unified front in what we do and being respectful. So like, I don't know where it is, but when you like start bashing people for using it, this is one I've been hearing about is fanning turkeys. So they're using a fan tail. And there's people just freaking out, like how unethical and immoral and it's too easy. It's like, to me, I'm like, really? So then don't use it. I don't know. I don't see like that's an ethical fight, but being respectful in the field, that's an ethical fight. So I don't know.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head. Disrespectful pictures on social media.
Oh.
I just get so upset when people can't clean the blood up, can't stick the tongue back in the mouth. I mean, it's just like, come on, people. Think about what you're putting on social media when you're putting these pictures on there. And it hurts all of us when they do that.
Oh.
And you know exactly the pictures that I'm talking about. I mean, you see them every day.
100%. I do think that they're try and navigate this as best. I think there's a fine line between sugarcoating things and being fake about things and showing what really happened versus doing really dumb stuff. So, and that's a tight line to have to walk, in my opinion. I think it's also, I think it's dangerous to sugarcoat things too much because you're relaying a false message in a sense. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down there?
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
I'm having a hard time articulating it, but
I agree. I had another person tell me, that we're all hunters. We ought to be able to handle those pictures. The hunters, we can handle it, but it's not the anti-hunters because they're not going to look at it. It's the non-hunters that I don't want to offend.
Oh, you see, I mean, the argument always pops up, and you'll see a handful of guys beating their chest. It's all, this is too bad. It's too bad in your face, and it's like, really, I got an aunt who I love dearly. Is anti. I got a sister. I mean, maybe not so much my sister. My aunt is anti-hunting. She just can't get it through her head that I kill things. She can buy a steak that's got a bolt driven through its head. She doesn't equate that into the same as an animal laying there dead on the ground. So I say I went hunting. She says, did you get some? Oh, yeah, I got some. I don't have to go into the details. I don't have to send her pictures because I respect her position. So if it means not putting a deer out on social media because it's just a nasty looking picture, I mean, can't we do that for the greater good?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I'm personally not one of those that puts pictures on social media, but I do send them to my friends, my select friends, and I'll send them pictures.
Yeah,
probably the deer that stumbles in front of me, or, I got to go oryx hunting here in February, and, same thing. There was a lost oryx that walked in front of me, and lucky things like that.
You mean like it was like, when you say lost, it was wounded or?
No. He just wasn't on the reservation. I had an off-range tag, and he was off the range.
I got you.
He and I, our paths crossed, and he shouldn't have been there. Yeah, I was just to the west of White Sands.
Oh, yeah, no, that'd be a fun hunt.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So, talk a little bit about your time on Pope and Young. Wait, did you have anything, Blake? I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to kind of elaborate on what I know trophy hunting gets poo-pooed on, and I see posts like to get rid of grip and grins, or don't talk about trophy hunting, or don't talk about antler size, or don't talk about this or that. And it's like, that's kind of one of those, I guess that's the example I'm trying to use, is don't sugarcoat things, because sugarcoating things, I think, is a dangerous game to play, because you're backing yourself into a corner. And that's just my opinion. I don't hunt just because of the meat. That's, I think, just a benefit of hunting. I hunt because I like it. I hunt because I enjoy it. I enjoy the places that it takes me. I enjoy the chase, and the meat is honestly kind of a secondary thing to me. And I think a lot of people kind of falsely beat that drum that it's all about the meat sometimes, and which for some people it is. But again, I think that's a dangerous corner to back yourself into, is to put on this false front that it's about something that it isn't, because then what you actually like to do is going to eventually become unaccepted completely, even more so than it already is. And that kind of goes back to I hate to keep bringing it up all the time. Kind of goes back to the baiting thing. I think that's why a lot of the reason why baiting deer is maybe as unaccepted as it is because a lot of people do it and lie about it. So it's, people have backed themselves into a corner of it being unacceptable or unaccepted, because somebody decided somewhere that it was unethical. So people just quit showing it, and people quit talking about it, or whatever it was. So that's my spiel anyways.
Blake, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the number one thing about hunting is getting outside and getting those mountains or getting in those fields, and just being in the outdoors and spending time with your friends and family. I mean, that's the number one thing for me. Is I'm to the stage and the age, it doesn't matter if I'm successful. A successful hunt for me is just getting to go out and be in the woods and be there with my friends or my family or whoever I get to be with, and an added bonus is if I get to put some meat in the freezer, great. And if it's another added bonus, if I get to shoot an animal that is fortunate enough to go in the Pope and Young record book, which doesn't happen very often for me, but anyway, but that's the number one reason to be up there, is to get up before the break of dawn and be out there in the woods when the woods come alive. That's why we all do it. At least I'd like to think that's why we do it.
Absolutely.
But you're absolutely right. It's not for the meat, and it's not for the horns. So
I think that's a good segue into what Rob was about to ask you about your time with Pope and Young. So when did that all start? And kind of go through your progression within the organization.
About 40 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to a measures class. Let me back up. I had an archer here in town, an older gentleman, that he was the measurer, and he wanted to quit. He goes, you need to become a measurer. And I'm like, that's hard to do. And so anyway, I called the office way back when. I put my name in the hat, and they said, well, it takes years to become a measurer, to get on the list, and blah, blah, blah. And about 2 weeks later, they called, and we had a cancellation. Would you want to come to a class? I said, I'll be there. I jumped on a plane, became a measurer many, many years ago. And then I had a gentleman, another Pope and Young member, that came hunting with me. He went on a goat hunt. He went on a sheep hunt. We went on a deer hunt. And we used to go to his house, and he had a place in Kansas. We used to hunt, and we used to sit around his fireplace talking Pope and Young, and he says, you know what, I'm going to run for vice president. And it was Dr. Mark Steffen, who's a good friend of mine. And so he ran, and he goes, okay, well, next time it's your turn. And about the same time, I went on one of the Mexico cruise trips that the Pope and Young was putting together, and got in a camp with Harv Ebers, and I don't know if you know who Harv Ebers is, but
Yeah,
he's one of the last founding fathers of Pope and Young, and
I've been
it was with
seeing
him and Dirk Dietrich and Brad Parkhill, and I'm trying to think who else was sitting around the fire, and they're all like going, "You need to run, you need to run, you need to run." So they talked me into running for second vice president about 12 years ago, and so I did that 2 terms, and then I got off for a term, and then they asked me to come back in as secretary for the board, and I did that for a couple terms, and then I ran for director, and now I'm on my first director term, you might say. So it's been about 12 years of being in and on the board at Pope and Young. It's been a very, very honored position, you might say. It's kind of a labor of love.
Yeah, in growing up, and all the names of people that I, aspired to be like, or all the names of people I read in the magazine, you probably got to work with them, and on a first name basis, got to know them. That's cool in itself.
I have been blessed to meet a lot of the same thing. These heroes that we had.
Yeah.
I mean, now a lot of them, be honest with you, are friends.
Yeah,
it's been a blessed, honored position.
There's something right there that just struck me, and I don't mean to derail this conversation, but you said that heroes, the heroes we had growing up. I wonder if today's quote unquote, next generation bow hunters, your 15 and to 20 to 25-year-olds. I wonder if they have the heroes, the quality of heroes that we had then. I mean, it came in a magazine. You rattle off all the names, even as late as Dwight Shue, but going all the way back to M.R. James and Miles Keller, and there's just so many of them. I hope that there are names out there for the younger folks to look up to, because that's so important.
I think, I hope that there's some names out there, but I think that so many of them, they're so focused on social media that they're, back when we were learning, the only way to learn was in a magazine. That was it.
Yeah.
And you went to the jamborees, and you went to different shooting events, trying to rub elbows with somebody that knew more knowledge than you did, that might throw you a bone and say, "Hey, try this or try that," or try this bow or try that bow or try this arrow or whatever. If you couldn't get it out of a magazine. Well, nowadays it's at your fingertips, and they get it right. They just Google it. So I hope there are those people that they're looking up to. I don't know that they're there.
Well, if they're there, they're going to be on social media, because that is the magazine of today. But you had to have some credentials.
Another one that I want to add to is they're on Saturday morning sportsman shows.
Yeah.
Some of these people are, go back to the Rochester convention, I think it was. We had Michael Waddell come in to do a Friday luncheon, basically for the kids. There were no kids at the convention, and all of a sudden, out of the woodwork come out hundreds of kids. And it was
awesome.
So yeah, I guess they do that. It's just a different media aspect, you might say. And by the way, Michael Waddell will be our guest speaker at Pope and Young Saturday night. That'll be fun.
That's down in Reno?
That's in Reno.
Yeah.
He showed up for that. I was just going to show you. He showed up for that Friday, and my buddy picked him up at the airport, and he says, "Well, do you need to review your notes or whatever?" And he goes, No, I'm good. Walked out of the car, walked up on the stage, no notes, no script, nothing, and just took off. And the kids loved it, and he entertained everybody for an hour. So I hope he gets to do the same thing again at Reno. I know it's going to be good.
I was just going to say, I fit in that young guy demographic who came up, and part of it was before social media, but it wasn't until the last, I don't know, probably 5 years or so that I really started even paying attention to social media. But I'll kind of speak for my demographic, I think there's a lot of great resources and people to up to on social media. But something that I think y'all were getting at is there's a lot of people who are not vetted
Exactly.
on social media, and it does make it tough in a way, but the ease of information, I can understand where that would be almost frustrating to a point to people who maybe didn't have that. But I do think that the ease of information is allowing people to get into our sport much, much easier and retain those people in our sport. So for the future of traditional bow hunting or hunting in general, I think there is something to be said about the ease of information being certainly being a good thing for the future of hunting, period. Now that's a fine line to walk because as I say that, we all complain about and bitch about Google Earth and Onyx Maps and all this other crap that makes it easy. But it's that's another one of those things. It's a fine line to walk because we want to recruit hunters or keep hunting relevant in future generations, but we don't want people in our spots and poo-pooing on our stuff.
How do we push the traditional agenda? I mean, that's such a personal preference. For me,
Podcasts.
I did shoot a compound for a while, and then I realized that every time I went in the woods with a compound, something was going to die. And that's not what I was out there for. So, and then I just got so addicted to it that, that's what I do. But it's so hard to explain to this younger generation, you may want to try this traditional route.
I think that's changing a lot. I really do. I think that narrative's changing. I mean, I would, we've talked about it, but I would bet that a third of our listeners to this podcast are all compound guys. And it's, several times a week or more that we get messages from compound guys that, I'll say this, without social media, without podcasts, I would have never picked up a stick bow, period. It wouldn't have ever happened, more than likely anyways. There's not really anybody in my area to look up to, so to speak, that I had access to anyway. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword. I would not have ever picked up a stick bow if it hadn't been for social media and podcasts, but that's just the way I'm wired is to, I want that next level challenge, but I think there's a lot of people that are that way. And, podcasts now and again, the ease of information thing, it is so easy to get this information out to the masses that it's pretty easy to promote at this point. Especially when you've got guys like Aaron and, others, Randy, Denny, who are on social media. There's a long list of them who are proving time and time again that this is a relevant weapon choice and you can be successful with it if you're willing to put in the work. And, that's what drove me to get into it is, kind of like you were saying with the compound, it's, while I still enjoyed it, I didn't have that driving passion or that driving, as soon as I got home, pick up my bow every day and shoot passion. And, the stick bow kind of brought that back to me. And, I think with podcasts and social media that it's when people hear you talk about that passionately, it's easy to get a fire lit in somebody who has the right mindset, who maybe otherwise wouldn't have ever, heard it. And that's kind of my spiel being a younger guy. And there's certainly cons to social media. There's no doubt because I see a lot of jackasses on it every day, but I see a lot of good on it too. So
can I jump in there?
Yeah.
Anytime.
One
It's
of
your show.
it's ours. You're on here. It's our show.
Okay, sorry. It's y'all's show.
No, I mean, I included you, John. So one thing we try to do here, and we really beat the drum, like bridging the gap. I've hunted with a stick bow for 30 years or so, and some of my best hunting buddies have shot compound. There's not the animosity. It's just making it available. I look at our local archery club, and 20 years ago, 15 years ago, it was me and Pete shooting a stick bow. And now I go to leagues and there's 10 people out of, 25 shooting stick bows. And to me, it's not about beating people down or being down on their equipment. Now, I always got to caveat that because I'm in Idaho and we do have very restrictive, I think some of the most restrictive in the country as far as equipment. So
the most,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah. So, I just try to hey, this is fun. And guys like Aaron who have come from the other side and have been successful, and they talk about upping the challenge. So to me, it's an open door policy. We don't try to legislate, traditional archery. We just hey, there's lots, there's the push. There's Aaron's page, the Kifaru cast and what he does with all of his bow tuning stuff. Rod Jenkins. I mean, there's so many avenues to learn, and you just make that available. Hey, you want to have fun? Come and shoot. And I think that's why this podcast has been so successful, and why we have so many compound guys and gals listen. Is just that, it's not the. I don't mean to point the fingers at anybody specifically, but I've seen it, and it's not the old crotchety guy standing there at the line saying how wrong it is for, the young kid over here shooting a compound. It's still more welcoming, and I believe it's working. I mean, I really, really believe it's working.
Most of the camps that I'm in, I'm the only recurve shooter there. Yeah. And it's amazing how many of the guys come over and, I've got one at home. I'm not secure to go hunting with it yet. And I go, you'll figure that time out when it comes.
Absolutely.
And then you'll put your bow down and you'll have the weapon of choice. But I also have friends, one season they'll hunt with a recurve, next season they'll hunt with a compound or different animals. I need a little longer shot. I'm going to take my compound or whatever the reason is fine.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
And I'm not opposed, to picking up a rifle. I own several rifles. I enjoy rifle hunting also. So,
yeah. I feel like I'm doing you a disservice. We're talking about all these morals and ethics and theories and future. You've done a heck of a lot with a stick bow, and we haven't talked. We've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, let's. What's one of you're on your third Colorado Big 9. What's your most memorable out of all of those animals? What is your most memorable, or maybe the one you worked the hardest for? Just one that sticks out. Let's hear that story.
All right, I'll tell you that story, but I have to stop you just for a minute. I live outside of town. My wife and I have 28 acres in this beautiful piece of property, and there's a fox outside my door screaming at us.
Right now?
right now.
Well, let him on the show. He's probably listens to the Stickbow Chronicles. We're a pretty big deal.
I've thought about opening the door up and just seeing if you could hear it through the phone, but you may not. But sometimes we have a lot of trapping, and they come up and they bark at the house. So I just had to laugh. So what's my most memorable hunt? There's so many. Geez, you told me this was only an hour show. It'd take 3 hours to do.
I told you. It goes pretty quick.
I'll tell you, I turned the lights on to see if I could see him, and I don't see him. One of my most memorable is my honeymoon was a doll sheep hunt in Alaska.
Oh, wow.
And I went up there with Tom Shankster, who passed away about a month ago. Real nice individual. And
I hope your wife was there.
It
was your honeymoon, right?
He made a deal of a deal. And and got to go up there on a Dall sheep hunt, and and I hate to admit this, but snuck up on a Dall sheep hunt on the second day. That was probably a 38 incher, and I flung 2 arrows right over his back both times, both of them perfectly right over his back. And I about sat down and cried, and went back up and climbed on the hill. And I had a young guide that this was his first time guiding sheep. And I said, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Let's go." And had another ram come up and literally go lay down on the one that I just missed. And I snuck down there. Now my dog's hearing the fox
I just
barking.
heard him.
Yeah. So anyway, and I snuck down there and shot this 41.5-inch Dall sheep.
Oh.
And as I went down the hill, I threw the camera to the young guide and said, "Here, videos." And I didn't even tell him how to do it or anything. And he got it all on video.
Oh,
And
no
that was a pretty phenomenal hunt. My wife was left in our spike camp over the hill, and the guide took the meat back to main camp, and I went over the hill, and I took him over the hill, and she's like, "Where's the guide?" I go, "I sent him to camp." She goes, "Why?" I go, "He's carrying the sheep to camp." She couldn't believe it. So that was a dream come true. I never thought that would happen. And that's just,
Certainly.
I hate to say it, but it's just one of many, many stories where I got lucky and came home with an animal.
That's certainly a dream hunt of mine. I'm not sure that it'll ever happen, but that's certainly at the top of the list for me is Dall sheep in Alaska.
So my little bit of advice to you: find a reputable outfitter and start sending him money now.
Yeah.
Every year, and book it 5 years out, whatever, and then go. Because if you don't plan it, you'll never do it. And gentlemen, it's getting more expensive every year.
Yeah, everything is. What about this Oryx hunt?
So that I shot with my grandpa's 1953 rifle. It was not
How
a
cool
bow
is
hunt.
that?
That's cool.
Yeah. So it was. I was doing this Oryx hunt, and we were getting it ready, and all of a sudden it just hit me. I go, "Why don't I drag my grandpa's rifle out of the closet and see if it shoots and take that?" And that's what I did. And it was special to me,
No doubt.
It was a rifle that my grandmother bought for him with S&H green stamps. And you guys might be too young to know what that is, but I guarantee some of your listeners know what that is.
Wow.
No, that's go ahead.
Yeah. She bought it in, I think, 59, but it was an old Sears and Roebuck that she bought with S&H green stamps. Anyway, it was special to me. It was a fun hunt.
No, that's something I'd like to scratch out, and I might do it this year. We've got a pre-64 Model 94 30-30 Winchester, and it was my great granddad's, and I'd really like to bust that thing out and shoot a deer with it. I think it'd be super cool.
I basically have exactly what you're talking about. That was my great-great-grandfather. So I've been thinking about doing the same thing and then passing it on to one of my cousins, and just pass it down the line type of thing.
That'd be great. No, that'd be awesome.
And that's what I hope to do with a lot of my bows around here too. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pass them down the line.
I may do it if I ever have a tag out west that's a little bit easier to draw a rifle tag or whatever. If I could fit a rifle hunt in somewhere, I may drag it out west on an elk hunt or mule deer hunt or something like that. That'd be top notch experience for me to take that old gun out and take it out west hiking around in the mountains. Be pretty cool.
It just puts a little something more special into it, knowing that you're using a family heirloom type of situation. I mean, it was for me, or maybe it will be for you.
Now, if I was to ask you what your favorite species is, I'm willing to bet it's either going to be the goat or the sheep. Apparently, I'm taking it that you're kind of a high country type sheep goat guy.
Yeah, I'm very addicted to sheep hunting. I really enjoy it. And I really enjoy guiding my clients when I get to, and the goat hunting in my area, we have one of the, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with G5, but G5 is the archery goat unit, premier goat unit in Colorado. And that's right here in my backyard. So
how do you
I know it very well. And so it's just, over the 30 years that I've been guiding up there. So it's my pet unit, you might say.
Now, I mean, that's rugged stuff, and you live right there, so maybe you just walking every day on that. But how do you stay in shape? Do you have a regimen? I mean, do you work out to be able to do this stuff, or are you just naturally gifted and you just take off on opening day?
So let's go back to when I got engaged to my wife. I told her there's 2 weeks of the year that we can get married. We can get married the end of January, or we can get married the end of February.
You're the man.
The end of July. I said, because that's the only time that I'm not either hunting, fishing, playing softball, playing hockey. That's your time limit. So I referee hockey. I have been a hockey referee for 25 years.
Well, I'm sorry. I probably screamed at you.
Yeah. I also play in the beer leagues.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say that's my stay in shape in the winter activity. And then as soon as spring gets here, I play softball all summer, and I try to use that as my stay in shape. But generally, like this year, I have a really good friend of mine that has the governor's tag in New Mexico, and we're going to start scouting immediately. And we're going to, most weekends, we're going to go scouting and that's in New Mexico for sheep.
For what species? For sheep? Oh, wow.
For bighorn, yeah. So, we're going to use that as a keep in shape, get in shape, but we also get to spend time in the high country. And my wife is also a high country person, and she was basically born and raised in Durango and mountaineering, skiing, all that kind of stuff. So she really likes to get up there. And she has taken a couple animals with herself with her bow. So she's getting to be a little bit of a bow hunter herself.
Real quick, can you give us like a brief overview of your gear? Because if you're doing it this much, you've got your gear dialed in as far as pack and sleeping bag, tent, just kind of your high level gear. No.
KUIU's been very good to me.
Yeah.
They really have. They've really been good to me, giving me deals on stuff. And I use a lot of KUIU clothing. My favorite backpack's an old McGregor. It's 35 years old. It's an external frame pack that I can put a lot on. The last couple of years I've been using a Stone Glacier backpack that I really, really like also. But a lot of times when I'm carrying a sheep out, I need something to tie those horns onto. So that old McGregor with the external frame works really well for that. The tent of choice, believe it or not, it's a 30-year-old Sierra Design 3-man. It's big enough I can sit up and cook. 2 guys can cook in it. You can put all your gear inside. You're out of the weather. Boots. If you want to get into boots, I wear the Kinetrex. I wear the hard scrabbles, the lower ones.
Mm-hmm.
I think the real high boots are just weigh a little bit more, and these are lighter. And I've been wearing those for 15 years. They work great. There's tons of good boots out there. We talked about bows. I will tell you that I do use graphite arrows. I'm too hard on arrows, so wood arrows don't work very well for me. I like grizzly broadheads. And I tell this story. The last moose I shot, I kind of hit her a little. She was quartering away. I hit her a little back in the hip. It went in the hip, came out her chest on a cow moose. That'll
do it.
That's a long travel.
I was like, I couldn't believe it. And my buddy Randy Hall, who's a longbow shooter, and you know how recurve and longbow shooters, they sometimes, you know, squabble with each other, make fun of each other or whatever. But he took those broadheads before my hunt and took them home to put them on his belt and sharpen them up. And I mean, they were scary sharp. And the proof was in the pudding because it went lengthwise through a moose.
Dang.
Um,
Sleeping bag.
What other gear you want to hear about?
Sleeping
Anything
bag.
in particular? Sleeping bag. I have a Kuiu sleeping bag. I have 2 of them actually, and they work great.
Pad?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
The pad.
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. What's the one with the down in it? Crap. I don't think they're in business anymore.
Huh.
Anyway, my pad is one that has the down in it. It's an older one. It's probably 10 years old.
I'll be darned.
And it works pretty good. They're heavy. They're not real slight.
You know, this is
Exped is what it is.
Oh yeah.
You know,
you know what's cool though is I had you know who Mike Minton is?
I know of him. Let's put it that way.
So he's pretty hardcore, you know, solo guy. Had him on, so like it'll be this week, you'll be next week. Anyways, I already did an interview with him, and it was kind of the same question, like what you know, he's talking about his gear, and it's so cool because, you know, the 30, 40s year olds, 20, 30, 40s, it's all about the gear, right? It's all the new stuff, and that's cool. But then you talk to guys that have been super successful, have been doing it forever, and you think, well, maybe it's not all about the gear because you're talking about a 35-year-old pack, you know, a 30-year-old tent. And Mike Minton was the same way. You know, he's got all this old gear.
Well, I'll add to that and say that 20 or 30 years from now, I may be that guy that's still using the same damn tent and the same pad and all that crap because I get locked into my own ways and scared to change stuff. I gotta defend the younger crowd a little bit.
Yeah. You show up at camp and it's after dark. I can put that tent up in my sleep. I don't have to have a light. I can do it. You know, and you know where everything is in your backpack. This backpack, I've been dragging it around the mountains forever, and I know where everything goes. I know where it's at. And you just get comfortable with it. You know, and I have a lot of people going, man, look at this backpack, you know, and it's been to the repair shop like 3 times. You know, but I still use it on certain hunts. But I will tell you that at Stone Glacier, I have one of their hunts or backpacks that I've used, and I really enjoy that backpack guiding if I'm not packing something out. Because when I'm guiding, it seems like I always have to carry my gear and a bunch of the hunter's gear. And so my backpack's always full. It has more stuff than you need in it.
More stuff than you need.
I'm always worried about. Well, I'm always worried about, you know, first aid and, you know, things like that, and stuff, extra food that you really don't have to have normally. But it's if you got a client there, you want to have everything to make sure that they're comfortable and having a good time. So my, backpack's always more full than I want it to be. And back when I was you guys' age, I never even thought about hiking poles. Hiking poles? Never. Nowadays, I don't leave home without them. So you get to that age where you go, I think I'll use some hiking poles.
Oh, so, they work. They work. I don't want to keep you all night. I really appreciate it. And I will go on record saying I don't think I did you any justice. We may have to have you back on, talk more about your actual hunts. But what I am curious about, how did you learn how to shoot a stick bow, and what's your aiming method today?
How did I learn? Well, it goes back to when I very started. And when I was, 13 or 14, when I got that Ben Pearson Magnum spoiler Magnum, I had no one to coach me. I had no one to tell me how to do anything. I just started doing it. My dad wasn't a bow hunter. He didn't have a clue. And I just started shooting it, and I had this target and a handful of arrows. And so I'm an instinctive shooter. I'm I would say instinctive with a partial gap shooter, but it's taken me all these years to figure out that, don't take the long shots. If it's not comfortable, don't take it. But when I got my first wapiti, when I was really going to get serious about this, I shot some indoor league, and then I ran into and I shot indoor league with a compound for a few years. I think it really made me a better shooter, because then I could transfer what I learned from shooting a compound in target to shooting a recurve. And I will tell you, I shot that wapiti very well, but I was younger. I was stronger and younger, and I killed a bunch of animals with it. It was fun, and of course there's somebody always thinks there's bigger, better, and this, and somebody gave me a Blackwidow, and I was, oh, it's a Blackwidow. That's what I read about all my life. I got to shoot that, and I shot it for a while and didn't shoot it well, and didn't realize it was the bow. And then I stumbled onto Pat Lay with the sleigh bow, and I've been shooting it basically ever since. And all the bows shoot better than I do. I'm never told anyone I'm a good shot. I just like to think I'm sneaky.
There you go.
Well, I think there's a lot to be said that some bows are just going to shoot better for certain people than others. It could be, not to get too geeky on it, but it could be just how the grip fits your hand. You could put pressure in the wrong places on certain bows versus others, or the draw cycle might stack in the wrong place on one bow versus another. So, everybody wants to geek out on all this stuff, but if you find something that works, man, just, I think this is a good podcast to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think you're a good example of that. You've been using the same stuff for 25, 30 years now.
And you hit the nail on the head when you said certain bows do certain things better, but I wasn't smart enough when I was younger to know that. And I didn't have anybody to coach me going, wait, the tiller's off on this bow because you did this or you didn't do that. Do you know what I'm saying? And I had Asbell's 101 of basic traditional bow hunting, and I went through that backwards and forwards, but being always not the best reader, I didn't understand it. So, and I like to think now that after doing this for, I'm 63 and I started when I was basically 14, I'm figuring it out.
Regardless, you're having fun along the way.
Yeah. And I've lost a lot of arrows. A lot of arrows.
John, we don't want to keep you too long. We appreciate your time, and we'll have to get you back on and dive more into just straight up hunting stories and hear about some of them critters. But thanks for hopping on. It's been awesome.
So I have a quick question. Are you guys headed to Compton in June?
I am struggling with my schedule at work. My plan is I am a board member. I kind of need to be there, so I am hoping and planning and crossing my fingers.
So I'm trying to squeeze it in myself. So hopefully we can run into each other there.
Absolutely. I'd love to look you in the eye, shake your hand. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I if work will allow it, I may try and make it up there myself. So be good to put some faces to some names anyway.
Sounds good. And you guys, anytime you want to call me up, we can do this again. I love talking bow hunting.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, John. We appreciate it.
Go.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Go holler at that fox.
Oh, and don't forget to come to Pope and Young in Reno,
Okay.
July.
I've been looking at my calendar. I would love to.
Well, this is my favorite saying to all of you guys, that if I can get you to one convention, you'll never want to miss another one. That's how much fun they are.
All right. Well, you have a good evening, buddy. It's good talking to you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.